So the biggest talking point obviously is the roof itself, so let's see it in action. Here we go. The back lifts up and then it just flops in like that. Job's a good one. When it comes to hub nut sports cars, I think the Renault Wind could well be one of the top contenders here. Here's a car that was pretty much a disaster in production. It was in production for just 3 years and on sale in the UK for only 2 of those. Most people think it's just a bit of a French fancy that doesn't amount to much, but we'll take this one for a drive and see if we can prove the doubters wrong. It's undoubtedly a very clever little car with its roof that folds away. But what is the Wind actually like? It's kind of forgotten by most people, so let's have a proper good look. So the Wind was launched in 2010, developed from the Twingo platform, but with some suspension from the Clio as well. The roof actually folds just over like that. It sort of flaps into the rear. So I guess the big question is, what does that actually do for boot space? Well, one thing is that the boot becomes quite heavy when it's got a roof in it as well. But there you go, still a massive boot. So this isn't one of those foldy roof convertibles where you lose all your boot space when the roof's stashed away. The roof's actually in here. It is a dual layer boot lid effectively. So yeah, that's clever stuff. And you can still get plenty of shopping aboard. Under the bonnet, in this one we have the 1.2 Turbo 4, which produces 98 brake horsepower. There was also a 1.6, but I don't think that's quite such a common power plant. All very, very standard Renault stuff, of course. And I like that you can actually see it. It's not buried under plastic. It's all a bit cozy in there, but you can see an actual engine. Incidentally, because this is left-hand drive, this wiper is entirely standard. On the UK market, Twingo and Wind, you had a complicated dual arm setup which swung this wiper up into the corner to give you a good view and gave you an absolutely terrific triangle of doom. We'll see whether left-hand drive is any better in that regard shortly. Incidentally, I do like the blue accents in the headlamp. That's quite funky. But moving inside, lift the thing to get in, and look at these chunky sports seats. Very, very comfortable they are too. Naturally it's fairly modern, so it's a sea of black plastic. But if we hop aboard, so you've got sporty little rev counter right in front of you, column stalks as you'd expect in any Renault, and even the radio controls that still looks like the one they were using in the 1980s. Radio controls here, some very interesting heater knobs, that's your hazard lights there, 5-speed manual gearbox, and this is the control for the roof. There is also a manual lock to keep it in place, but lots of space. We've got a bit of storage behind the seats as well. Got a decent sized glove box, plenty of CDs there. Phantom of the Opera, eh? Nice. And overall it just feels a nice place to sit, especially in the open air. So you can have the Wind in your mullet. Oh, one little thing I hadn't noticed is the cigarette lighter is there. Why, Renault? You can't reach that from the driver's seat. Of course, it's not really a cigarette, it's just your 12-volt power outlet, but not so convenient. But then it does look like maybe you could charge your phone off the USB there. Okay, let's fire the little engine into life. And sounds pretty normal. Very light power steering at manoeuvring speeds, and not quite enough steering lock. Which brings us to the biggest bugbear. The rear view is not brilliant. You've got the buttresses coming down, a tiny little rear window, so yeah, not the best when it comes to manoeuvring. So we've got some slower roads to start, but that's fine because let the engine get nicely warmed up. And it reminds you that, of course, the beauty of cars based on humble underpinnings is they're entirely fuss-free to drive. It just drives very, very deliciously and normally. So I think too many people wrote these cars off as the traditional hairdresser's car, but they're all about posing and not enough about actual motoring. But as ever, that can give a very skewed opinion and an unfair one of a car. So let's see what it's actually like when we get it out on some quicker roads. Certainly the engine pulls very nicely at very low revs. We're doing about 1600 RPM in fifth at the moment. Feels entirely happy. Quite blustery in here though. I don't know if raising a window makes that better or worse. Better, I'm gonna say. Right, put my foot down and see what happens. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Oh yeah, that comes on song quite nicely. There's a bit of wait for it, but once the revs climb, she does accelerate nicely. Doesn't make the most dramatic noise, although this car does have a bit of a secret in that regard. Oh yeah. Yeah, we have a naughty button on the exhaust. Oh, that is funny. That makes all the difference. Because otherwise, I think it is just a little bit too well-mannered. Oh yeah, very keen to go round a bend. You see, the French are quite good at making ordinary cars handle well, so it should come as no surprise that the Wind does corner very, very well. Got a nice planted, secure feeling. Very, very direct, responsive steering. So you don't have to turn the wheel very much at all. Well, we're going to get a test of the aero properties of the car anyway, because the Wind is absolutely ferocious today. But yeah, buffeting seems to be kept to a minimum. In fact, the air just seems to move around you very nicely. The ride, though, a little on the firm side. Silly noises. They make all the difference though. I think if it had been a little rortier from the factory, people might have been a bit more interested. It's amazing how fast a loud exhaust or a bit of induction noise can make a car feel, even when it isn't. Well, we've just set about the important business of the windscreen wiper test. And importantly, we don't seem to be getting wet, but oh dear. Still, an almighty triangle of doom, and if we weren't going down the road, that would be giving us a considerable dribble of disappointment. So the downside of the roof design is you can't put it back on when you're driving along. If you imagine that, it would be one heck of a speed brake. So you've got to be parked up with the handbrake on for the roof to be able to close again. It is quite nice in something like the Smart Cabrio we had recently. But if you change your mind on the fly, you can just shut the roof. Oh, that open exhaust is good fun. Well, it's not completely open, but it's more open, certainly. It makes you want to rev match just to blip the throttle. Oh, that is funny. Yeah, it's just super eager to turn in. It feels really, really good. And well, the ride is a little too firm. It's not overly jarring, but of course that also benefits the handling. I think much maligned for all the wrong reasons. And of course, I can't recall off the top of my head how expensive they were new. It may have been just some people saw it as stretched too far for that little bit of fun. But as a used buy, I think a Wind makes an awful lot of sense. about as exotic as a chip butty, but very entertaining. Well, the wind is in my hair even without being in the car today. It's definitely got quite blowy here in the Netherlands, but what a lot of fun that is. I think that's an entertaining little package, a little secret, if you like. So don't be like all the others who just write this off as a pointless little posing machine. It's actually really, really nice to drive, and yet, of course, everyday mechanicals, nice and easy to look after. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hubnut store if you'd like to buy lovely merchandise. We'll see you in a future video. Bye!